This is the uniform, it seems to be all over the world, the dark suit. The dark suit. And these people are promoted, prime ministers, presidents, as being the leaders of the world, the people who are making the decisions. If anyone thinks Bush has been running America, I've got some seafront property in Switzerland you might like to look at. I've got a picture. The dark suits are the here today, gone tomorrow politicians who are the vehicles for introducing the agenda decided in the shadows, and those shadows people do not change, or at least those that control the shadow people do not change. As they say in America, those enormous numbers of people in America are now starting to understand this. They say, whoever you vote for, the government still gets in. And what they mean by that is those that control governments of any persuasion get in. In the shadows, this is where it's done. Look for the think tanks, which is a massive vehicle for this manipulation in the background. These people are cardboard cutouts. They do a job for a while. Some of them know they're doing a job in relation to the shadow people. Lots of them don't. They're just manipulated to bring in certain policies by the networks around them. I mean, have you met a lot of these people? You know, not a lot of brain cell activity in some of these politicians, right? Piece of cake to use them to bring things through. What has Bush done for the last nearly 8 years? Signed things. Hasn't decided what's being signed, he's just bloody signed it. Now, because of people like me and other people all across the internet and through other means, books and stuff, and never mind that, daily experience now, it's becoming clearer and more obvious that there is an elite that is deciding the direction that this world and our lives is going. And one of those insiders on the peripheral of the inside, David Rothkopf, wrote this book recently. It's called Superclass. He is a scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, a think tank in America that was exposed by a congressional investigation in the 50s by something called the Reese Committee. It was exposed, this international peace organization was exposed for manipulating war, particularly the First World War, and they got that from the minutes of the organization. He's also a former director of a notorious organization that's in my books right the way through, called Kissinger Associates, which was set up by Henry Kissinger along with a co-founder called Lord Carrington, you might have heard of, Foreign Secretary at the time of the Falklands War in this country, in the Thatcher administration. But what he says, having, fallback position, we can't keep denying it, fallback position, yes, an elite is deciding the direction of the world, but it's kind of a loose thing, and it's just kind of happening. Bullshit. It's coldly calculated if you go high enough, and I'll get into that. So, this is where the action is, behind the scenes. And it's a network of bloodlines. I can't go into this too much because of time. I want to focus on what this election is about, but just a little bit of background. There were bloodlines out of the ancient world. They were the royal bloodlines. They were considered special and all the rest of it, that came out of the ancient world, which are overwhelmingly pulling the strings within this elite. Some of the ancient advanced civilizations, but particularly one keeps coming to light, what we once called Sumer, which historians call the cradle of civilization. I would question that, but that's what they say. And later it was called Babylon. Now this land is of great historical significance to this network of interbreeding bloodlines, and it is called today Iraq. Yes, the Iraq thing was about oil, but not only. Yes, it was about many things. but not only. But it was also about the historical significance of this land known as Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, in terms of the people who were orchestrating the invasion of Iraq. And these bloodlines moved out, became the force behind the Roman Empire, moved up into Northern Europe, became the aristocracy and royal bloodlines of Europe. And when people started then, the people in general, started resisting this overt, in-your-face royal dictatorship, where they could see where the control was, these bloodlines started moving. Still some stayed in the official royal state, but most of them moved out of that into what I call the dark suit professions. This is why when you look at the genealogy of American presidents since Washington, which has been done by people like the Boston Historical Genealogical Society and stuff, the number of presidents that lock in to the royal and aristocratic establishment of Europe is staggering. In the land where anyone can become president. What's that? More bullshit. Thank you very much. The real expansion of this network came with what we called colonial rule, where the British Empire, what did they say? They said the sun never set on the British Empire, so big was it. But not just the British Empire, that was the prime one, mind. Also the French and others. And these bloodlines were exported all over the world as these European powers colonized the world. And then we had this sleight of hand called independence for these former colonies. Now, there's two basic types of dictatorship. There's a dictatorship you can see, touch and taste. Communism, fascism, apartheid. The people under those dictatorships know where they stand. They can see the controllers, they know they're controlled. That kind of control has a finite life because people can see what the situation is. It might take some time, but eventually the desire for freedom in the human heart will rebel against that. The greatest form of dictatorship is a dictatorship you can't see, touch and taste, that goes under cover stories like democracy and freedom. And people will sit in one of those dictatorships forever until someone or something points out what the game is. It's in simple terms, symbolic terms, not even symbolic, it's how it is. It's sitting in a prison when you can't see the bars, where you think that you're free because you can put a cross on an irrelevant piece of paper every 4 or 5 years to elect in different masks on the same face to continue the same agenda the last lot did. We're free, honey. That is the greatest form of dictatorship, because people do not rebel against not being free when they think they are. And what happened at what we call independence for the former colonies is they moved from a dictatorship that the colonies could see, rule from Britain or whatever, to a covert dictatorship. What they did, they left the bloodline out there and the secret society network that manipulates the bloodline into power and its agents and gophers into power. And they've gone on controlling those countries ever since, while the people in those countries think they're free and their own government is